You're watching this video because you want to improve your sniper skills, but you're tired of watching the generic 10-minute video, which basically covers nothing you want to know, but today you're in the right place. I'm going to simplify sniping for you and put you in the best spot to hone your sniping skills. Sniping in Warzone is extremely satisfying. While sniping isn't as complicated or even as hard as other battle royales, there's something special about hitting headshots in Warzone. Let's get started and cover our weapon choices first. As far as the sniper category goes, there's only two real choices, the HDR and the AX50, which are both great guns, but after hours of testing, I've come to the conclusion that the HDR is better, and it comes down to bullet velocity for me, which roughly translates to bullet drop. If this is your first BR game and you haven't played games like PUBG or Fortnite, I'll dive a little deeper. At longer ranges, you need to aim above a target to account for bullet drop. In Warzone, it's not bad with the AX50, but using the HDR takes a lot of the guesswork out of the equation. With the right attachments on the HDR, you can basically click on their heads at most ranges. A thing I've learned, which isn't as important in multiplayer, is holding your breath. You absolutely should do this right before you take a shot. You're doing yourself a disservice by not utilizing free stability. If you want to try shooting without holding your breath, that's up to you, but you may ask yourself, how did I miss that shot? I was right on his head. And I credit this largely due to not holding your breath. It makes a difference. Since I've talked a little bit about the HDR, our gun of choice, let's go ahead and look at the attachments. This is my HDR setup. You may replace any attachment you find not to your liking, but I'm about to write you a strongly worded letter as to why you need to use these attachments. Before we get into the attachments, you should use an SMG or an assault rifle as your secondary weapon. The sniper is powerful, but it's not going to win up close battles. I like to use the MP7 because it's good up close and it has AR-like range. If you want to use an AR, the choice is yours. I prefer the M4 and the GRAW. Alright, the attachments are the monolithic suppressor and the 26.9 HDR Pro barrel. The monolithic suppressor is pretty much the go-to muzzle on any gun in Warzone because of the silencing and damage range increase, while the 26.9 barrel has insanely good stats for sniping. It increases our damage range and bullet velocity. These are the two main things we want to gain from our attachments. And then we have the tac laser, because you want to gain back some of that lost ADS speed from the first attachment, and it gives you a boost in aiming stability. And then we've got the FTAC champion, which gives you more aiming stability and a little bit of aim walking steadiness. And then lastly, I use presence of mind because it lets you hold your breath longer. You could consider switching this out with focus, which reduces flinch resistance, but if you're getting shot at, it's probably just a good choice to reposition. It is a little helpful. You could also consider switching this perk out with one of the extended mags, but both of these reduce your ADS speed and decrease your movement speed, and I'm not willing to lose both of those just to have a couple extra shots. The thing I've noticed about most of the snipers I watch is they like to use a scope, specifically the thermal, which is great, but not showing up to everyone looking in your direction is also great. The default scope that comes with the HDR doesn't give off glint, making you much harder to see and giving you the ability to get that crucial first shot off. I recommend getting good with the default scope before diving into others, but there are advantages to using the thermal. It makes it much easier to see targets, assuming they don't have cold-blooded. The other one besides the thermal that people are using is the variable zoom, and this is just a better scope that lets you see further range, but it also gives off glint, so I'm trying to avoid that. I'm trying to be sneaky. Now I want to get to the part I consider the most important when it comes to sniping in Warzone, and that's positioning. While sniping, it's easy to forget about your teammates and start taking shots, but this isn't the way to go about it. You need to work with your team based on the dynamics of your group. If you're all sniping, feel free to take some risky shots, but know that 3 to 4 guys ADSing makes your team very vulnerable to flanks. The truth of the matter is that most fights don't start at super long range. I would say typically 300 meters or less. There's also a good chance your whole team isn't sniping, so by taking longer range shots, you force your teammates to push into a team that knows you're there, and even worse, a healthy team if you miss your first few shots. Here's the ideal fight for sniping. You scope in, see a team, get a live ping or two, push up to a reasonable range to allow your teammates to assist you, call out when you're about to take the shot, and work from there. Doing this allows the team to work as a unit and takes the focus off of one guy. While they're looking at you, your teammates start beaming and allow you to get another shot or two off. This also keeps you at range not to worry about bullet drop, so you can click on their heads without trying to calculate the maximum velocity of the opponent's forehead. Once you've reached this part of the fight, this is when things can become tricky. So you have two options after you've taken your first couple shots with a sniper. You can either keep sniping or you can switch your weapons and push. Which one is the right answer? Well, there's no exact right answer, but let's take a look at a few scenarios. In the first scenario, we keep sniping. So in this situation, as you continue sniping, there's no one down. You've taken 3 shots, only hitting one player without breaking their armor. In this situation, you're behind your team, forcing a 3v2 situation. And by the time you get up there, both of your guys are dead, and it's a 2v1 situation. Scenario 2. You've downed one, and it's a 2v2 situation. You can continue to snipe, but a 3v2 situation in your favor seems like a safe play over trying to hit a spicy snipe. Scenario 3. You're a laser beam. You've downed 2, and it's 2 versus 1 in your favor. I think it's safe to continue sniping, but still, a 3v1 in your favor is a lot safer, and you're probably not going to lose that fight. And then we have our other scenario, which is switching our weapons and pushing. So let's say we've taken 3 or 4 shots. Regardless of downs, you've got 1 bullet left, maybe 2. Instead of reloading, you go up to assist your teammate with your secondary, preferably an SMG or an assault rifle. This puts you in a different position because there's a good chance the opposing team knows where you are after 3 or 4 shots, and you might even have another team pushing you while you're totally oblivious. While pushing up, you have the advantage of callouts since your team is in close quarters and it's an easy setup for a flank most of the time. I know sniping is fun and you want to hit the shots, but putting your team in poor situations is going to reduce the number of shots you get to take per game. This video is about playing smart and utilizing the power of the sniper instead of trying to hit clips. Now that we've covered mechanics, let's go into our practice routine. You have a couple options for practicing outside of the BR mode, which is great. Plunder is the free-to-play option if you don't own the game. This is an easy choice to get comfortable with sniping. For people that own the base game, you can also run Ground War. I like Ground War a little more because people tend to play less aggressive than they do in Plunder, and the maps are also locations in the BR mode. The experience won't be one-to-one because respawning allows people to play recklessly and you don't have armor in Ground War, but it's better than nothing. Overall, Plunder probably provides the most authentic experience because it's the same map and it's 3v3 or 4v4. Once you've gotten decent at the other game types, give it a shot in the core BR mode and don't be discouraged when it doesn't always work out. You'll get better as time goes. It takes practice like anything else. I believe if you follow the tips I provided, you'll be in the best positions to succeed and expand your knowledge of sniping and the power of positioning.
Down one. There's somebody else shooting at over here.